welcome to episode 269 with House, Pope, and Rooster. How you doing, fellas?
What's
Rooster?
up, Rooster? You're still in a good basketball good mood.
Yeah.
I'm still
You can
pumped
see it in his face.
for the Knicks. The Knicks. Let's jump right into who we taking to the bar, Pope.
Well, I'm glad I get to go first because I'm afraid somebody else might take mine. But I'm going to take old Pop to the bar because I am looking forward to hearing what he has to say about his time. You know, he was with Wemby for Wemby's rookie year and then part of his second year. Then he had a stroke in November of 24. But they have remained close. I don't know. You guys saw the post conference. Wemby was very emotional, talking about his relationship with Pop, and clearly he's had an impact. I mean, look what he's done with Tim Duncan, and you know, Pop is the guy. And
yeah, I thought it was a great scene when they showed Pop and Duncan in the suite together watching the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of feels there, and I'll be happy to buy Pop whatever he's drinking and listen to him give me a little prediction too on the series and how he thinks it's going to go. But we'll talk about it later.
Pop is a wine enthusiast, so it may cost you something.
All right.
Pope.
Well, if it's wine, then we'll be breaking home some good wine.
House, who are you taking to the bar?
Well, at the time of recording at 5:05 p.m., I'm only an hour into my tears. There's going to be a lot of hate from Philly on A.J. Brown. I think he's misunderstood as a player. Frankly, I think he misunderstands himself and the situation that he's chosen for himself. He did not have a good time in Tennessee with Mike Vrabel. And then I think he had some regrets about the kind of relationship after he subsequently had a relationship with Nick Sirianni, which I don't think went very famously. But at the end of the day, he was critical to our Super Bowl championship, 59, and all the success that we've had in the last few years. It's a shame. AJ and Jalen started out as best friends. That has fallen off too. I'm sad to see him go. I think he'll do well in New England. I think, again, New England was good, and both May will get better, and he'll be improved even more with A.J. Brown there. I can't say that whatever we're replacing in the locker room is an improvement. You can't improve. He's a top 5 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I'll miss him, so here's a bottle of whatever on the way out, AJ. Thanks for the memories.
I was really hoping the Giants would get him. I think he's awesome. I love the guy. And I'm kind of surprised he wants to go play for Vrabel again.
Very.
Assuming Vrabel's back.
Yeah, that's the other thing. What if they kick out Vrabel? Then what does AJ
They're
do?
going to kick him out.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I am going to bring to the bar our pal and correspondent Moose, because the Stanley Cup time is upon us. We're going to need him to come back, and I'm going to pour some of his favorite brown liquid down his throat and try to cheer him up over the fact that Canada seems to just suck at hockey these days.
Olympics, Stanley Cup, you name it.
Yeah, they just took 4th, right? They just took 4th in the Worlds, right?
Yeah.
They didn't medal there.
Yep. All right, let's talk NBA Finals. I mean, I don't know why we're even bothering. It's kind of a foregone conclusion. But anyway, I'm just kidding. I'm not jinxing the Knicks. What do you guys think? Pope, what's your take on what needs to happen for each team?
Well, I mean, the Knicks took 2 out of 3 against the Spurs this year. Knicks are playing unbelievable confidence right now. They're blowing out teams on the road double digits. They're a machine, but they're going to run up against quite a force with the Spurs. You know, I have to give props to House because it wouldn't be a good SMQB if I didn't. 3 years ago, NBA draft, House sent in, I quote, Spurs could get really good really fast. And boy, did they. I think they're ahead of their time. Maybe House saw it at the time, but 3 years from Wemby being drafted number 1 to the NBA Finals is a fast track. But they have great supporting cast. I mean, with Castle and Johnson and Harper, number 2 pick last year, really coming into his own early on and clutch in game 7, going on the road, winning at OKC, defending NBA champion. I think a lot of us were surprised that they were able to do it as easily, actually, as they did it. So, I think the odds favor the Spurs. I mean, the West has been superior all year. But I think the Knicks are playing at a different level now that we hadn't seen during the season. Brunson, my former Mav, is playing at an elite all NBA level. Do
you guys know who statistically guards Wemby the best in the whole league? Nope. OG.
Oh,
OG.
Yeah. OG.
All right.
It's held him to the least points.
Well, that's probably why they won 2 out of 3 games against him. But
and then he can pass him off to Robinson. Hopefully, here's what I think. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you next, House. I think the key to the whole series is going to be Mitch Johnson making a better decision about who's going to bring the ball up the court for the Spurs. I love Castle. I mean, he's my UConn guy, but he is no point guard, and he led all the playoffs in turnovers.
He struggled on turnovers.
I mean, he can't be their primary ball handler against the Knicks, or the Knicks are going to eat him alive. And Mitch Johnson has options. He's got DeAndre Fox, and now he's got Harper, who I think, even though he's young and didn't start all year, he's got a finals, a conference finals under his belt. He's got tons of confidence. That guy needs to be handling the ball and passing it to Castle to drive the hoop or shoot. But if they want Castle bringing up the ball from the inbound all the way up, they're in trouble against the Knicks. What do you think, House?
Well, let me first say that America, you are about to be a divided self. Here are your options. America has given the game away to Giannis, Jokic, SGA, and now maybe Wemby. It's all the internationals taking the championships and the MVPs. You could, America, have the great Americans from New York, the great Nova Knicks. Or, America, you have to face the New York fans being the New York fans if they win this championship. It's a really difficult choice, but I will just say,
coming from Mr. Philadelphia,
right.
I find
grease
that
your
to be
poles
very
so you
ironic.
don't climb on them.
Yeah.
Well, we would have been relying on Joel Embiid in international anyway, but I do think that's an interesting story, how it's like one international star after another that has been winning championships, and we forget about the Knicks, which, all joking aside, they're actually a lunch-pail team. They're just a hard-working. We talk, the guys that, are really into basketball talk about the 3-and-D wings, these long wingspan, great defending wings. That's, to me, the story of the NBA Finals. To your point, Rooster, it's can these guards, Castle the turnover machine, De'Aaron Fox, who's getting a little bit longer in the tooth, and this baby, Dylan Harper, take down OG, Bridges, and Josh Hart. Because if these guys defend the way they have been in the playoffs and they're shooting from the perimeter, this is not close. So really, I think it's a great comment about what does Mitch Johnson have in his mind to break through those 3-and-D wings on the offensive side. On the defensive side, Wemby changes so many shots. It's forget about all the blocks that are on the statistics chart. It's how many shots that are changed. And if he can, by the way, Rooster, I don't know if you have an update on the Mitch Rob injury, but if they're limited to Cat with no backup, that's a big deal.
Yeah. No, he's playing. His thumb hurts, but he's playing.
Okay. So, because that would be a really, really big deal.
So what's the big deal?
But he can rebound really well.
Right.
And if you take that away, that would be so. That's a little bit of a difference. Look, the Knicks were a 53-win team, and the Spurs were a 62-win team. And on paper, you'd say, okay, well, the Spurs have a significant advantage playing the more difficult West and getting 62 wins. This team that the Knicks have been in the last 11-game win streak, covering 10 of those games, forget about it. Like, no one, if they're playing the way they've played the last 11 games, this could be Knicks in 5 or 6. I don't think it's going to be that because I think, boy, what Wemby showed in games 6 and 7 is far beyond his years. He's a 21-year-old kid who said, I'm putting this team on my shoulders. We are not losing. We have the talent to beat this defending champion. And he did it.
He beat Chet Holmgren down psychologically.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy looked terrified.
2 shots in game 7? What in the...
He looked like he didn't want the ball.
Yeah, he was...
I feel a little bit for Chet. The entire national media is hating on Chet.
You get paid that kind of money.
It's hard.
Damn it.
Maybe.
Show up on... At least show up in
I hope
game
he
7.
spends the offseason bulking up and gaining some confidence. He puts on 40 pounds and gets strong. He's going to be a force.
He had a good year, and to their credit, the team is backing him up big time. So
yeah, they should. They should.
They owe him a lot of money going forward, so everything's going to have to figure that out. But look, I think both of these teams have really thrived on their home court, and I think that's one nice advantage that San Antonio has, because I don't expect the Knicks to lose a single game at home. So that means San Antonio can't lose at home. So it's really, if the Knicks steal one game, this is ending in 6. But if it comes down to a game 7, boy, would we be in for a treat. If everybody holds home court until game 7, but if the Knicks steal one of these first 2 games, it's over.
The Knicks are on an epic road rant right now. I mean, they're winning road games by double digits.
Yeah, but the Spurs won on the road.
They did.
Against OKC. They don't seem to be intimidated by the playing away from home at all.
It's a dream matchup for the NBA. You've got the biggest media market against the 5th smallest media market. You've got the little engine that could against the long-awaited New York return to the finals. It's just a dream. You've got the future of the NBA,
have the face
and
of the league, and what they hope is the future face of the league for many, many years.
Yeah,
Adam
Silver is beside himself.
Adam Silver is so behind Wemby, it's unbelievable.
But the Knicks. Knicks have been off 9 days. We'll see if there's any rust, because that's a long time.
They were definitely a little rusty in that first half of the first game. Against Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
Yep. But then they pulled it together.
I look for the Spurs to punch him pretty hard in game 1.
Speaking about Adam Silver, who's had a hard-on for tanking in the NBA for a couple of years now, let's talk about this 3-2-1 lottery rule that the NBA has come up with. In a nutshell, if there are 4 categories of teams who start with, the most you can have are 3 lottery balls.
Mm-hmm.
And the teams with the 1, 2, and 3 worst records are being penalized for that, because they're just being per se accused of tanking and losing one of their lottery balls. So they get 2 lottery balls.
Right. Which equals 5.4% chance.
Yep. The non-play-in teams, which will be 7 of them, because they've expanded this to 16 teams?
Yep.
7 non-play-in teams get 3 lottery balls. So that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to be.
4 through 10 get 8.1%.
The 9th and 10 play-in seeds get 2 lottery balls, and the losers of the 7 and 8 play-in get 1.
Which means that the teams playing in the playoffs at the 9 and 10 play-in seed, now generally they are oftentimes under 500 teams, but the teams that have qualified for the playoffs have the same chance to get the number 1 pick as the 3 worst teams in the NBA.
Right, which stinks. And also, the last time they tried to level out the odds, the tanking went up. The tanking for the number 1 pick went up. I predict what's going to happen here is the tanking is going to occur if you're on the cusp of being a play-in team. Why would you want to be in a position where you're the loser of 7 or 8 play-in game when you can tank a few games and not be in at all? Because you're not going to advance, statistically speaking. You're not advancing if you are a play-in team.
Absolutely right.
So they're all going to tank and try to be in the 7 teams that are non-play-in teams and get 3 lottery balls. That's where all the tanking is going to occur. And you're going to have teams like Sacramento and the Wizards who get penalized for being terrible when they really are terrible. I think the Wizards will not be terrible next year, but they were historic.
Yeah, it's going to make for more aggressive moves in free agency. Interestingly, I just learned, I was not aware of this because there was so much focus on this, is this really a fair solution with the lottery balls and the percentages? I did not know, but it is true that part of the anti-tanking rules are you cannot get the number 1 pick in consecutive years.
Right.
And you cannot get a top 5 pick in 3 straight drafts.
Like the Spurs have.
And subjectively, the commissioner, Adam Silver, can punish teams if he perceives that there's tanking going on. He's got a whole range of how he can punish, including just moving teams down in the draft order or worse. So I don't know. I mean, first of all, it is a tryout. They're trying this out through 2029. So they're going to do it for 3 years. I think you're right, Rooster. I think you're going to see a lot of teams like teams that were like Charlotte, Orlando this year who were right at around 9 and 10. They're going to be like, okay, we're not beating the Knicks this year. Why not get 4 through 10 and get 3 lottery balls and have an 8% chance to get whoever.
Well, it's not just number 1, right? It's the top 3 in the lottery. I mean, that's what it has been. Did they change that?
They did change that. So now
2 and 3 reverts back to who?
All 16 picks are from ping pong balls.
Yep.
It used to be
odds, if you're 1 through 3, your odds go from 8.1% to 5.4%
for the number 1 pick.
Yes.
For the number 1 pick. For the number 1 pick, but it also means that what it used to be is once you were one of those balls, they was by record 14 down to 5, and then the top 4 was where they
right. I mean, it was like, the number 11 jumped up, and we don't know where they are yet, but they could be 1, 2, 3, or 4.
So now it's going to be drama the whole way through. Where did the lottery ball land for 16, 15, all the way down to 1?
Yep. There's also these trades where they're draft pick protected.
Yeah.
They've altered that some too, so that you can't do it for picks 12 through 15. You can't protect the pick.
But I also read a comment that's saying, if you don't know where it's like right now, if you trade with Washington for next year, you're pretty sure that you're getting if you're getting their number 1 pick, you're getting a very high pick. Now, because of some of the uncertainty, it might make these blockbuster trades with future first-round draft picks a little bit more uncertain because, what you think is getting a 1 or 2 could all of a sudden be a 14 or 15.
Right. It's going to be interesting, and I think just like the last time they tried to do this, there's going to be unintended consequences that are just as bad as the tankers who tried to get into the
final couple of weeks with the jockeying between the teams trying to avoid third worst.
Well, I said last week I'd much rather they focus on flopping, but the tanking doesn't bother me so much, but the flopping is just annoying as hell. And the time they take to review plays. Those 2 things are, I think, more important to the long-term success of the league than this issue. But what do I know? On a related issue, House, you brought up the Protect College Sports Act to see if that will fix the perceived problems with NIL and transfer portals and everything else going on in college football. You want to outline that for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. We have punched the NCAA. I've lost count how many times. And most of it has to do for just this unabated NIL, transfer portal, coaches leaving early, coaches leaving teams in the lurch. And there is a bipartisan effort from 2 senators, Maria Cantwell of Washington, Ted Cruz of Texas, came together with a bill.
What an unlikely combo.
At first, very unlikely. At first, when I heard it, it said, wow, this addresses a lot of the problems in the end, what this ends up being is a bill to protect the NCAA.
Yep.
The NCAA has been sued
It's
over
an
and over again.
anti-athlete bill.
It's an anti-athlete, anti-antitrust bill. So the NCAA has been acting for a long time in a very anti-competitive stance because they have no competitor, and they've made it very hard for athletes to at all levels, not just the best of the best, but they've made it hard for athletes to get protections against injury, certain money protections, NIL. Notwithstanding all the headlines you hear, there's a lot of problems for athletes, and they've been sued and they've lost. Every time there's been an antitrust challenge against the NCAA has lost. So what's really going on here? What's really going on here is that they're federalizing college sports. The NIL that we all hear about players getting paid now would be in a federal system. There would be a uniform system where there would be rules for eligibility. There would be a national requirements for NIL agents. You would have to meet federaal requirements.
Capping their fees at 5%.
Capping fees. So for us, the lawyers on the pod, we worry about every day when someone is wrongfully injured. We're worried every day when we do our job about the federal government stepping in and saying, there's a rule here that, you can't sue over a car accident because we have standards in the federal highway safety, or you can't sue over a train accident because we have standards for the railroads, or we can't sue for an airplane accident because we have the Federal Aviation Association.
And if you do, we're going to cap your fees.
So we face this, the guys on the pod face this all the time. What's interesting now is they're now bringing this to college sports. This is what we call that federal preemption, when the federal laws preempt any state laws. That's essentially what this bill is.
This has been the most activist time in politics in my lifetime. It used to be that conservatives railed against activism through the courts and through the legislature. Now everybody's an activist. Everybody wants to legislate everything. And my biggest problem with this bill is not so much the bill itself, but with all the stuff going on in the world today, with the war and the economy and everything else, why in the world are these senators spending their time messing with college sports?
The NCAA asked them to.
Yeah,
because the NCAA asked them to.
But let me push back a little on your house and see, play a little devil's advocate, because I think the sponsors of the bill and the NCAA would say, well, what about the fact that we have a guardrail against super leagues built into this, so that if you're a conference that has $1 billion in revenues, you are prohibited from acquiring another conference or merging with another conference.
Good
so
part of the bill.
That's
there
not
good
pro.
Parts there are good parts to the bill.
Yeah, there are. And they're also going to say, well, there's an athlete safety and wellness provision. What I would say to that is, well, where's the details? It's just
exactly.
It's just some hopeful thinking, basically, is what they're saying, is that they want to mandate wellness standards, but where are they? They're not in there.
To me, the best three parts of the bill are, it would limit to one unrestricted transfer. You're not going to have perpetual free agency amongst athletes.
Right.
2, it would limit when coaches, literally called the Lane Kiffin rule within the bill.
Right.
Coaches would have to wait till the playoffs are over, so you're not leaving your teams and your recruiting and everything else in the lurch. So there would be a time frame when coaches can move. And 3, knowing that football and basketball make so much revenue, there would actually be essentially a revenue sharing to the smaller sports to protect Olympic sports, like a lot of
the
women's
smaller
sports,
conferences
and women's
smaller
sports.
conferences.
Yeah.
Women's sports like wrestling, sports like volleyball, sports like you name the non-football basketball, they are actually going to benefit from this.
Yeah,
bill.
they can voluntarily pool their money among their conferences and collectively negotiate media rights as conferences, as long as they don't have the $1 billion revenue stream.
Like most
the other
bills,
thing they do.
No, I was like most bills. I mean, there's there are some good things that you would like to keep. Obviously, there's some bad things that would probably make us, as a group, vote against it. But House and Rooster, do you see a compromise such that there could be some framework, maybe not as rigid as we're looking at to be pro NCAA, but some kind of compromise bill that would provide the protections that we're talking about for non-revenue Olympic sports, women's, health insurance coverage and things like that for athletes, give them some kind of collective bargaining rights, and also limit the transfer portal chaos and maybe give some dates that are workable. Could there be a framework that the sides could work on?
I wouldn't mind this bill so much because there are a couple other things in it that House didn't mention that I like. There's a strict 5-year eligibility rule so that you won't have guys like the Miami quarterback
Carson Beck
playing until he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
And former pros are barred from returning to the NCAA.
See Alabama.
I like that too. Yeah. But I would like this thing a whole lot better if they didn't try to create a national contract that is rammed down the throats of all these kids.
So I think to answer Pope's question about whether a compromise is possible, when I was reading up on the bill and saying who's behind it and for it and who's against it, well, who's for it? The Power Four conferences, the NCAA is an organization, and the athletic directors. Who's against it? Labor,
agents,
athletes, plaintiffs, agents. So can those groups actually compromise? One would think so. It's ugly. The NCAA, in order for this to work, I think the NCAA has to give more ground than anyone. They're going to have to recognize that there are some elemental problems that have to be fixed, such as, some of the pluses that you're talking about. I definitely think they cannot give in on this one unrestricted transfer. Maybe that's anti-athlete. Maybe that does deprive a true market, but it makes a mess.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's more of a regulation, but they want to interfere with the person's right to contract. And that's just un-American. You can't make somebody sign a form contract and that you had no ability to negotiate. What's the quid pro quo if you're signing this contract? If it's already been drafted and there's nothing you can negotiate about it, the federal government has decided what your contract is going to say.
Well, their answer would be, we for the first time, we're going to give you protections against injury. We're going to give you other labor protections that you wouldn't necessarily get as a plain free agent. Once your contract is over, you're done. The next school you go to, you get hurt, you're done. You're hurt, you're out. This one, we're actually going to give you protections even if an injury occurs.
Well, the bill is silent on whether the players are technically employees of the school.
By design, I'm sure.
Which I think if you play that out, kind of keeps the collective bargaining argument open for them.
I think that's coming one day. I think they're going to fully unionize amongst NCAA sports. And that will probably be what brings about the compromise. Once there's a full unionization of college athletes and they ask for the kinds of protections they should be getting, there's going to have to be a give and take. And then I think the NCAA will give and will maybe land on a bill that is the best of all these things.
Well, and we know, how hard it is to pass legislation in Congress. I mean, in the Senate, it's going to require a filibuster-proof majority of 60 votes or more. It's so hard to see them the way that they are now, so politically at heads that they could actually get something together that both houses could agree on, the president could sign. I think it's a long way.
You know who has the ability to do this?
From being a bill that's going to pass.
The person who has the ability to advocate for this bill better than anyone I can think of is Charlie Baker, who is the president of the NCAA. He's a moderate Republican that the Democrats all respect, but he's been dead silent on all of these issues ever since he took over the NCAA, and I, for the life of me, don't understand why. Because
he's towing the company line.
He was a super popular governor. People did not vote along party lines in Massachusetts when they elected him governor. They all liked him. They would listen to him on the Hill if he would just speak up, but he's been silent. So I don't get it. And maybe he will.
So when are hearings? Are we going to get some idea of where we're headed?
I don't know that any of those have been scheduled yet. If they have, I haven't heard it. I think right now they had a press release. The bill is probably, I think the next thing would be a markup and hearings. We'll see. We'll see what kind of momentum it gets. But you made a really interesting point, Pope, about getting 60 votes. What I have not looked into this, but what I'd be curious about is if you were to add up the states with the major power conferences from the Big Ten to the SEC, how many? Because there will be a lot of political pressure on the senators from those states to pass this kind of bill that provides protections to those schools. Does that add up to 60 votes? I don't know. We're looking at the map, and where the geographic distribution
1600
of the power
Pennsylvania
schools.
Avenue, and if that person actually cares and it's going to take a position.
Maybe we'll see an AI meme of him in a football uniform soon.
I think Bison would say, watch this space.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move along. And one topic that I know we wanted to talk about was the amazing year that Cam Schlittler is having.
I knew that was coming.
Talk about the incredible Cy Young races going on in Major League Baseball, particularly the performances last month. House,
you are up Schlitz Creek, and
sounds like a good TV show.
I would say it's his to lose in the AL. He's been amazing, but the NL is it's really only going to be injury or falling off the cliff that's going to change this from being a season-long thing, because there are at least 3 pitchers and probably 6 that are having any one of these years, if it were to be extrapolated into a full year, would be a Cy Young winning year. Christopher Sanchez, Jacob Mizorowski, and Shohei Ohtani right now are doing otherworldly things. And that's not to say much about Chase Burns, Paul Skeens, Chris Sale, and Mason Miller, to name 4 others that are having unbelievable years. But in May alone, Christopher Sanchez had 39 innings of 0 runs scored against him. None. Currently
44 and 2/3 is what I saw.
44 and 2/3 total consecutive. So some of it was in April going into May.
Okay.
He is if he's starting pitchers, he's the longest left-hander ever. Carl Hubble has 45 and a third, but 38 and a third of that came as a starter. So if you count as a starting pitcher, right now he already owns a record, or he needs another 2/3 of another 1 inning to pass the longest left-hander ever. Jacob Mizorowski is striking out basically every batter he faces. He's had 202 pitches thrown at 100 miles per hour or faster. And 111 batters in May, he gave up 11 hits. He has 49 strikeouts in May with 0 extra base hits. He's had 58 strikeouts since his last extra base hit. He actually had a worse ERA than Christopher Sanchez. Sanchez had a 0.00 May ERA. Mizorowski had a poor 0.23. But then you've got Ohtani. And interestingly, what people say about Ohtani is that was the one thing he wanted this year. He has his MVPs. Mm-hmm. He has his World Series. He wanted the Cy Young. This is a guy who hit on him through his own batting, 55 home runs last year. And now as a pitcher this year, so far, he has a 0.82 ERA to start the year. It is the 3rd best ERA through stats in the live ball era to start a season. He is lights out. I mean,
to your point about how great the pitching in the NL is this year so far, Vegas actually has him as the 4th best odds. They still have Skeens ahead of him with a .82 ERA. It's crazy.
Unbelievable. Skeens has been rocked a couple times, which resulted in a 2.62 ERA, but he's got a whip of 0.71. And batters are batting only 158 against Skeens. and 180 against Chris Sale and 182 against the Reds' Chase Burns. And by the way, Mason Miller, they'll almost never give a Cy Young to a reliever. Mason Miller has 52 strikeouts of his own. This is the stat that blows me away. Mason Miller has stranded 85 runners left on base. That is crazy.
Insane.
You give him the ball and someone's on base, don't worry about it. They're not coming in to score.
You know what would change that? If he signed with the Yankees. And then all of a sudden, he wouldn't be able to get anyone out.
Well, it's fun. It's really fun to watch. Hitting is down for sure. And the question is hitting down because hitters aren't hitting as well, or is it because of this spectacular pitching that's going on in both leagues? I mean, Schlittler's having a great year. There's an Astros pitcher that's having an insane year.
Pope, your guy, DeGrom, is having a great year.
Yeah.
DeGrom is back.
Not as elite as them, but yes. Eovaldi's doing okay, but they can't have any hitting.
Keep an eye. And by the way, I will, for right now, eat it. Last year, Jacob Mizorowski displaced at least one or two Phillies on the All-Star team. He had a 4-1 record and had barely come out of the womb as a pitcher. And, he went to the All-Star game and then kind of faded after the All-Star game. And I was like, okay, could we stop building statues? But it looks like Mizorowski is only on the beginning of the trajectory.
Yeah,
of his
he was
career.
pretty much unhittable in the last series against the Yankees. They couldn't touch him.
But what's the history of those guys who are throwing the over 100-mile-an-hour fastball on a regular basis? Has Mizorowski had Tommy John yet?
And you wonder whether or not we're already seeing a little bit of that with Skeens, because he's not as unhittable this year as he was last year.
And Skubal obviously already is out.
Skubal who could move.
Yep. All right. Who has a punchable face? Anyone?
I don't. But I
It
don't
seemed pretty good this week.
Yeah. Nobody needs a punch. I have a lasso. Anybody else have a lasso?
No, I want to hear it.
All right. So my lasso goes to show you that horrible people can actually hire really good people, and the good people shouldn't be punished for the person for whom they work. And in this case, the people who are getting my lasso are the Garden of Dreams Foundation from Madison Square Garden, the MSG group. Because as everybody has heard, the prices for a Knicks ticket for the finals is so high that Garrett Wilson, starting wide receiver for the Jets, said he couldn't afford to go. So the Garden of Dreams Foundation has bought up 250 tickets, and they're giving them away free to underprivileged kids throughout New York City. And then so the mayor is following suit and setting up safe watch parties around the city so that people can do what they were doing outside of MSG before they got kicked out. So it's a nice gesture, and it's good to see.
That's great. That's a great one.
Anybody else? If there's not another one, I'd like to do a pour out for Hall of Famer Raymond Berry, who was Johnny Unitas's go-to guy.
Sure.
Back in the mid-'50s through the early 60s. Died today at 93 years of age. He caught 12 passes in the game that they call the greatest game of all time, the Giants Colts playoff game before there was a Super Bowl. And then he led he was a first ballot Hall of Fame inductee and led the Patriots to the Super Bowl as a coach.
I remember that.
Yeah. So big loss today for the football world, and rest in peace, Raymond Berry, one of the better wide receivers in the old days.
Rooster, can I use as a segue into the buzzers?
Yeah.
Because it's a buzzer / pour out. This week, we learned of the death of Claude Lemieux at age 60 years old. And unfortunately, we learned that it came by way of suicide, and more information emerged. And, we talk about earlier on the pod things like, Chet Holmgren, or there are players right now being left off of World Cup rosters after having given so much to their country and played other World Cups before, or their whole career for country. It turned out that poor Claude Lemieux had a broken heart from being left out of the Hockey Hall of Fame. He had won 4 Stanley Cups. He had numerous accolades. Yes, he had a reputation as that bruiser. He had a record for penalty minutes in the playoffs, but he was sure that his resume was sufficient to get him a bid and into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he didn't. And apparently it broke his heart, and he was very, very depressed for years. And then he came to the Canadiens game 3 or whatever it was this past Monday night, a week ago, and carried in the torch that they bring in as their pregame ritual and looked happy, was all smiles. And apparently, if anything, it just triggered a sadness within him that unless he gets some kind of figurehead situation like that, he's a forgotten entity in hockey, and he just couldn't get past that.
Well, I don't know if you heard this, but his family donated his brain to the Boston University's concussion program today, which tells me that they suspect that the cause of the depression was CTE.
Yeah. Which could be. But I pour one out for Claude Lemieux and the pressure that these guys are under. Another buzzer that we've got a busy buzzer this week, but last week there have been 2 truly remarkable upsets in sports this week, one of which was Yannick Sinner in the French Open. This guy, especially with Alcaraz being out injured, indisputably the best player in the world. And he's up 5-1 in the 3rd set. He needs one more game. But the heat in Paris has been oppressive. And there were even people saying the only thing that beats Sinner today is whether or not he can withstand the heat. And he literally, from that point, truly went off a cliff in his body. And he won another 3 games for the remainder of the whole
4
match
points away.
And lost 4 points away from advancing and getting some recovery and probably cakewalking. So big upset. You're going to probably hear most likely a relative no-name win the French Open on the men's side this year. Joker's out. Alcaraz is hurt. There a lot of unranked players are remaining. That upset combined with if you haven't turned on some of these regional games in college baseball playoffs, the 52-6 UCLA Bruins, which was the first team in college baseball history to go wire to wire, number 1 from the preseason to number 1 to enter these playoffs, got beat by the St. Mary Gales to get knocked out of the college baseball playoffs. Truly, probably one of the biggest upsets. St. Mary's,
they got beat twice by them,
38-25. They lost another game, but I don't know that this other game was also to St. Mary's. I think you had to lose twice in the competition. It's a double knockout. I think the other loss was to someone else, as I recall, but you could be right there. In any case, being knocked out altogether was bananas. Who do you guys like in the NHL Stanley Cup between Carolina and Vegas?
I'm a Hurricanes fan just because they're
the Whalers,
Hartford Whalers,
the Hartford Whalers, and I do not like the Vegas team, so I'm just rooting for the Hurricanes, regardless of who I think will win.
This is a sign of the times of how fucking old we are. Do you realize I still think of Carolina as a relatively new franchise-ish?
How long?
Oh, they won the Stanley Cup in 2006. Yeah.
Wow.
And that wasn't their first year. Yeah.
Well, speaking of major upsets, though,
he's got it.
Speaking of upsets, is anyone prepared to talk about the 8U Palma Sia Little League?
Come on, Palma Sia.
Like first pitch is coming up. Little Preston Michler.
Our pal Milk is missing the broadcast because his son is the starting pitcher for the Palma Sia Little Leaguers, and they upset the Yankees of their league and are moving on.
I think they're facing the dreaded TBLL, the Tampa Bay Little League, or I don't know, something like that. But the team I think that they had not lost in the playoffs, that they just beat Because, again, I think it's double elimination. So Paul Messia, I think, won 7-0 in the last game to force tonight's game. So come on, Paul Messia. Come on, Preston
Let's do
Michler.
it, Preston.
Let's go.
Good to know that Palmacy is something other than just a country club where you go, relax after Gasparilla, right, House?
Exactly. Should you guys ready to hand it over the Lombardi to the Rams now?
Well, yeah, let's go.
They were already favored before they got Myles Garrett.
This is stupid.
It's crazy.
What are the Browns doing?
Everything I've read,
I think,
not a bad trade for the Browns, though.
Yeah, the Browns got some good draft picks and that dude from Florida State who had such a good year.
Jared Verse.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, the Rams are just stockpiling talent. They also picked up a great corner in the offseason, McDuffie. They've got the reigning MVP of the league in Stafford.
Great
I don't know. It's
backup quarterback now.
Yes, of course, with Ty Simpson. This is a crazy trade.
Well, it's all win now with Stafford. You got what, a 2 maybe 3 year window?
I wonder how much of it
had
to do with the fact that the Super Bowl is being played in SoFi this year, and they wanted to win it at home.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, they're all in.
So
for sure.
between A.J. Brown and Garrett, that kind of came close to the major news in the NFL today, which is that the Giants re-signed OBJ.
Yeah, don't forget Brandon Berrios or whatever his name is. You guys have receivers that are going to be, I mean,
what?
We were hoping to get Raymond Berry, but it didn't work out.
But Rooster, all kidding aside, you wonder whether or not some of these signings, because I think they have some real concerns about the recovery from Malik Neighbors.
They're that guy Gunnar Olszewski or whatever his name is out with a torn Achilles.
But Neighbors doesn't seem to be recovering at the pace they wanted him to. That would be bad because I like Malik Neighbors.
I think they're going to have to go to a 2 tight end offense where Nicely is more of a slot receiver.
Likely or nicely.
That's likely to happen, isn't it?
Nicely play.
I'm just glad
this signals the end.
I'm just glad you guys, AJ Brown didn't end up in the NFC East, unlike the legend somehow got traded interdivision.
Yes. Howie was not going to let that happen.
Thank you. This time.
All right. Anybody else with a buzzer or a final
Let's go,
thoughts?
Little Milk.
Let's go, Little Milk. Let's go, Preston.
My man.